toxic masculinity.
Instead, let's just dwell on the positive. And I'm going to take you guys' questions and comments. So if you guys have anything to say, I want to hear it. Sorry. Let's see here. Okay. So let me move the thing over. All right. Frank James says, if it comes out that the election was fraudulent, it would mean that Trump won the election. Therefore, he should be reinstalled as president. Well, I agree. I mean, of course, everybody thinks that. Well, everybody's smart. Gamma Goblin Miller says, you don't think justice will ever find him? You're talking about Biden and Hunter. Well, okay, so here's the thing. One of the reasons I think that Republicans have avoided going after leftist politicians in the past is that there's this idea that, like, you don't go after your political opponents using the judiciary, using the justice system, because that's what they do in third world countries, right? So if you're a dictator and you don't want any opposition, you have your opponent arrested. And there's always been this sense that, like, we don't want to appear to be dictatorial, so we won't do that, even if there is reason to arrest our political opponents. So Republicans don't tend to go after Democrats, and instead we would rely on other Democrats to go after Democrats. We wouldn't go after them ourselves, typically, I think. But I think that needs to end, because Democrats are coming after us hardcore, and they're coming after us for trumped up charges. They're coming after us for crimes we didn't actually commit. And, oh, Ashley sent me some super chats. They're coming after us for crimes that we didn't commit. So if Democrats are willing to try to go after American conservatives for crimes they didn't commit, we need to be willing to go after them for crimes they did actually commit, at least. Well, I mean, certainly we wouldn't go after them for crimes they didn't commit, because we're not disgusting, fake, lying, cheating, horrible people. Like, look what they're doing with Donald Trump. They're investigating him but they don't have a crime to investigate him for. The Southern District of New York is just on a fishing expedition trying to find some kind of something that they can charge Trump with so that they can send him to prison. They're persecuting political enemies. This is total corruption. So we need to stop that, right? I think Letitia James, who is the prosecutor out there, she needs to go to prison for what she's doing. What she's doing is totally illegal. You cannot just dig through a person's whole life and try to find something to put them in prison for. You know, if there's not some crime associated with that, there needs to be. She needs to go to prison. What she's doing is totally corrupt. Somebody else, what's the other super chat that I got here? From AR15, Kyle writes, this is why dogs are better. Talking about my cat, Aston. Well, I'm going to tell you what, Aston acts a lot like a dog. My cat acts a lot like a dog. I would say that I prefer normal cats, not necessarily Bengals, because I like the independence of a cat. You don't have to, like, dogs always need attention. You need to walk them. You need to, they need attention. They need to be loved. Cats don't need to be loved. Cats are cool with you. They can ignore you. They're fine. They can do their own thing. They're independent. I have a lot of respect for that. Aston, on the other hand, acts like a dog. The only thing that is not like a dog is he doesn't want to cuddle, and so that drives Valeria nuts, because Valeria always wants to cuddle with the cat, and he's not into that. But he's very loud, like dogs. Some dogs are quite loud. And there's other things. He'll fetch, which is really weird. Bengals can fetch, which is like a very weird thing. But let's see here. Frank James also writes, do you record videos in 4K? I do record my videos in 4K, yes. I post all my videos in 4K. But the videos from Toxic Masculinity are automatically downscaled to 1080p because they're streamed. And streaming in 4K is, I don't even know if you can stream in 4K on YouTube. If you can, I should figure that out, because I should be able to stream in 4K, but I've never, for some reason, it's always downgraded. I might have done that when I set it up originally, just so there's a cleaner stream. Because 4K is kind of hard, I think. Hard to stream 4K. Let's see here. Jeff Beal writes, "Your show is so nice. I listened to it twice, live and Google Podcasts. I love when I hear my question the next day." Well, I love when you ask questions, Jeff. Jeff Beal's been with me for a while now, and good man, good man. He says, "You seem like the kind of guy that would water ski. Any water sports?" I love water skiing. I love water skiing. I love water skiing. I used to go water skiing. I used to go. I used to go wakeboarding. I used to go do the inner tubes. I think the inner tubes were my favorite when I was a little kid, because even though skiing is good, because skiing is kind of like more of like you feel like you're accomplishing something. You're like doing something. You're like up, or you're balancing. You're like, it's a little bit hard. It's more physical. But when I was a kid, when I was like a teenager, we used to have a jet boat. My dad would take us on the jet boat, and then like two of you would get into those the inner tube things. I don't remember what they used to call them. And we used to hold on for dear life, and he used to go crazy fast, and he'd go over bumps and around. He'd make a big circle, and then he'd kind of like take the boat through it, and we'd go flying off these bumps and stuff like that. But the really cool thing was that if there would be two of us, like these guys, maybe one or two people on an inner tube here, and then one or two people on an inner tube here. If you'd ram into each other, you could maybe like knock the other person off. And it was a lot more dynamic. It was more like a game, right? Where it was like a war kind of. And so I like the competitive aspect of the inner tubes, despite the fact that it was more of like a sport, I guess you'd call it. Or it was a bit more physical to be on skis. And I love skiing, water skiing, and I loved those inner tubes ramming into each other. I mean, I had a great childhood. Now you're giving me good memories of Detroit Lake over in Oregon. Nothing to do with Detroit, Michigan. I don't know why. Just different places have the same name. I was born in Dallas, Oregon, which is weird because, nobody even knows there's a place called Dallas in Oregon. Let's see here. Abel Garcia writes, "I'm pretty sure Aston is watching you right now and thinking about how to get you back for these comments." Oh yeah, he's been planning his attack for months, I'm sure. Yankee the Rebel says, "I really don't understand." Yankee the Rebel is, of course, Ashley, the woman who compiles my stories here. "I really don't understand why the left's end game, what the left's end game is. Most leftists seem to want to fight and be angry just for the sake of fighting and being angry." Smegley says, "No intro." It's interesting you say that, because all right, so I'm gonna close out here, but I have really, really, really bad news, really unfortunate, really sad news. And this is really sad because I really even hate saying it. I don't want to say it. I'd rather just maybe say it tomorrow or something, but I think I should say it now. I'm actually going to stop doing the show. Tomorrow is actually going to be the last broadcast, and it's sad, and it's crappy, and it's not ideal, and it's not what I want to do, because I love doing this show. I really love doing this show. In fact, I look forward to doing this show every single day. And you might say, well, okay, well, if you love doing something, why are you stopping doing it? Because when you have a business, like YouTube is my business, essentially. And I have to figure out what is the most optimal way to spend my time. And this show is much more fun for me to do, actually, than Mr. Reagan is. Sometimes Mr. Reagan can be amazingly fun to do. Sometimes it's kind of crappy to do, and it's kind of painful and unpleasant. This show is always fun to do. This show is always good to do. It's always a good time. It's always a nice thing for me to do during the day. And it's actually been good for my life because it's structured my life in a way where I know at 6 o'clock every night I got to go live. So I have to prepare early. But there's a couple problems with me doing this show. One of the problems is it takes at least 3 hours a day to do this show for me. Sometimes a little bit more than that. But that's 3 hours that I don't have to work on my Mr. Reagan show. That's 3 hours I don't have to do some of the other stuff that I do. And it just takes so much time away from my other stuff. And the show doesn't really make me any money, which is fine. I mean, that's not like that big of a deal. But it is a big deal when I think of my responsibilities outside of the show. And there could be a time when we bring the show back, but it didn't grow as much as I needed it to be something that is a sustainable thing for me. I just don't get any views on this show. I mean, in terms of like, we're talking about YouTube numbers, right? We're not talking about, of course I get views on the show, but I don't get decent YouTube numbers, right? We're not talking about 10,000 views or anything above that, right? We're talking about fairly low numbers for everything I put out on this show. And I tried to give it a long time to grow, and it got to a certain point and it started to stagnate. And I think for the most part, I blame myself for that, right? I just wasn't able to produce a show with the kind of format or the kind of content or the kind of charisma, maybe, that was necessary to build the show into something that was bigger. I wasn't able to build a big audience. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure why I was unable to build an audience for this show. I had to kind of maybe reflect on that, and then maybe in a few months or maybe a year or something like that, if I want to shift into a direction in which I do live streams again, maybe we'll move on into that. I may do a live stream thing for Mr. Reagan once a week. That's something people are trying to get me to do. I may do it, I may not. I haven't decided yet. If I do that, it'll be one day a week. We'll see. But it's just such a difficult choice for me to make, because I really wanted to continue to do the show, but I also need to free up some time. And I needed to free up some time for a variety of reasons. I'm trying to get this cartoon done. I'm trying to write 2 books. I'm trying to get a fitness routine in, which is almost impossible to do. I have almost no time during the day to do all the things I want to do. I mean, even part of the things I want to do, I don't have the time of the day. So something had to give, and I had to get rid of the show. It's definitely not something I want to do. So tomorrow will be the last broadcast. It is honestly the worst thing for me. And part of it is because I really love you guys. Like this is something that I don't really connect very much with the Mr. Reagan audience. I mean, I do in the comment section. I'll go in the comment section. I'll talk to people, and I've gotten emails in the past. There was a point when I was getting so many messages, it was really hard for me to take messages anymore. But I do still occasionally go into my DMs and Twitter, and I'll just write people occasionally. But that's pretty rare these days. I almost never go into Facebook anymore. I used to go to Facebook all the time. There was just too many messages. It got too overwhelming. And so this was another way I could get a smaller audience, and I could talk to you guys. And it's honestly, I absolutely love this show. But it's just something that's become untenable for me to continue to do. So I'm going to have to end it. And again, hopefully I'll be able to bring it back one day. But as it is, tomorrow will be the last broadcast, which is, again, it's very sad for me. And I know some of you won't care, but I know others of you will be awfully disappointed. And I am sorry to disappoint everybody. I did try to build this into something bigger, but it just wouldn't. And I had to put my focus on other things. So obviously I'll be doing a lot of Mr. Reagan stuff, and so I will see you there. But until then, it's just going to be tomorrow, and that's it. Abel says, you're my top 5 YouTubers. Sorry, Elijah's number 1. Hopefully you can do the show again. Yeah, Elijah's great. Thanks, man. Somebody wrote something about Peloton. I do have a Peloton. Yeah. I got a Peloton, so I use that for my cardio. Smilesk, Smiles G writes, I've only one super chatted this show. This may very well be my last super chat. I'm sorry, man. I mean, guys, like Frank James says, if you quit, I'll kill my dog. Do you want that on your conscience? No, do not kill your dog, please. Jeff Beal says, I appreciate your honesty about it. You're awesome. Thanks. Guys, yeah, I live mad. I'll try to live happy if you don't mind. But yeah, I appreciate that you guys. Yeah, and find Ashley's posting. Yankee the Rebel is posting her Facebook on there. So go ahead and click on that, and everybody can hopefully stay connected. And that's one thing that's a huge disappointment is you guys are an amazing community. The way you guys chat to each other in the chat is just, I mean, I love you guys. I think you guys are awesome, and it's gonna be sad to get rid of the show. But again, hopefully we bring it back eventually, and I will also see all of you guys tomorrow for one more show, and hopefully Valeria will be here. I'll try to force her. All right, guys. Until then, stay awesome, and remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. And I should say the rest of it, right? I should say that we are the least professional show on YouTube. And I'm toxic. Valeria is masculine. And together we are toxic masculinity. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Toxic masculinity.